Hi, my name is Leszek, and the story I'm going to share with you today is very close to my heart. It is about sport, passion, Olympic trials, winning, sacrifice, losing, tears, and a career ending injury. But don't worry, there will be no sad ending. Actually, this ending injury was a catalyst which has pushed my today guest on the path of self improvement. But let's start from the beginning. Let's go back in time to Canada and the small village somewhere next to the lake.
My parents realized that I didn't really know how to swim at age 8 when we lived by a lake in Canada, like on the far west coast, on a little island. And we go to the lake all the time in the summer, and we just realized I didn't know how to swim. My parents realized I didn't know how to swim, so I just kind of hopped in, started swimming. And being a typical younger sibling, I saw my sister get into swimming and just wanted to be like her, so I started training and doing some summer club stuff, which just means you swim during the summer. And that was when, it was when it all kind of began.
This was Alex, my today's guest. So after the learning swimming, it didn't take long for him to realize that he might have a talent.
Yeah, when I was 10, actually just 2 years into swimming, I knew I had something because I broke a provincial record, which was like basically like my province in Canada. I broke a record 2 years into swimming, so I knew I had something, and my parents were very supportive. So I thought I had like big Olympic dreams in swimming, and then also dreams to go play soccer in Europe. So like I always kind of had these like lofty goals, but I guess I started really seriously thinking and committing towards the swimming one when I was 15. And when I entered the all year round club, I started training just like the hardest I ever had and working my way up the ranks. So I made it to like a provincial team first, and then a couple years later, I made it to a junior national team, and that's when I was like, okay, here we go. I was starting to beat the coaches and the swimmers that I used to see on TV and swim alongside them and train with them and all that kind of stuff. So that was when I started feeling like, hey, this might happen. So from there, I trained and started getting some interest from some university teams. Went down to the States on a swim scholarship to University of Pittsburgh and started training full-time down there while doing my studies, and coming back to Canada for Olympic trials in 2008. And then 4 years later, for 2012, I was in the same situation, training and getting ready for that, because I thought I honestly had an outside chance, but a chance nonetheless. And then that's when I injured myself again.
Alex's story is very common. I have seen many of my friends being chewed up by the system and their health destroyed. The truth is that in sport, the results are most important. The qualification, the medal, the PB, that's what counts. That's what brings you and your coach fame and recognition. Players as young as 8-10 years old are only small cogs in the machine, and when they get injured, they're just being dropped. Sometimes the demanding coach or pushing parents are to be blamed. But sometimes a highly motivated athlete can push himself to the limit, because make it or break it attitude is very common. Alex was different.
I was absolutely obsessed. So I would think about anything to do with the glamorous side of training and like how much I could push myself. So I was one of those people that, I'd watch Rocky or something like that, and I would be like, okay, here we go. I'm going to train so hard tomorrow and see how high I can get my heart rate and all that kind of stuff, and see who I can out-train.
So you've been basically David Goggins before David Goggins was a Goggins.
A little bit less calculated and a little bit less educated, as crazy as that sounds, because he sounds off the rails completely. But yeah, I was like super into the psychological side of just beating myself up and coming out the other side stronger than my competitors. So very, very competitive, and mostly competitive against myself. I just really, really wanted to beat the clock and do better every single race. So,
and do you think this is important in like pro sport? Everyone is like that, or
I think sometimes people like me can take it for granted. I think it is really important. I usually brush over it, but I think it's definitely an essential thing. Like people need that drive, they need that inspiration, and they need to have that dream. But I think far too often, once you have those things, and that's most people at the high level, I think most people, it's kind of a given that they have that drive. They lack attention to detail, and like the stuff that is less glamorous is less appealing. So they really do cover their bases in terms of staying motivated and trying hard, but sometimes they're not aware of their blind spots.
And shouldn't be this a role of the coach?
It should, absolutely. It really should. And yeah, I wish that I had better guidance growing up. I had some great coaches, don't get me wrong, but I also had some people that kind of enabled me to just keep training through pain. And that, I think that's not really like, everybody's evolving these days, like coaches included. And back in the day, that was kind of like what people thought was what it takes to get to the top level. So, you know, no offense to those coaches in the past, or you know, I don't fault them that much, but I think training has evolved to a level where people are getting so much more educated on covering all of their bases, becoming a well-rounded human, not just an athlete, not somebody who's, you know, really strong at one specific thing and not able to do some very basic tasks that are, you know, more appropriate for just any human to be able to do. And I think you kind of definitely understand that as a strength coach.
So let's take it a little bit back.
Yeah.
So you've got the second Olympic trials.
Yep.
You're training very hard. It's like how many hours? 15, 16 per week or more?
How many sessions?
How many hours per week?
At least 20 hours a week.
20 hours per week.
Yeah.
So you're really pushing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what's happened then?
So I just started getting, I had a recurring injury about a year out from Olympic trials. Actually, it was probably more than a year, where I injured my wrist in the weight room doing some Olympic lifting. Mm-hmm. And I think it was just doing like a hang clean or something as simple as that. And so I was like one of those people that was so like just addicted to pushing myself that I just couldn't take time off. Like even if it was, you know, a simple wrist injury and, you know, take 3 weeks off, let it heal, I couldn't do it. And I had people kind of enabling me to keep pushing myself, and maybe I wasn't being probably vocal enough about what was going wrong with my body. So I had this wrist injury and I kept training through it. So what happened was I trained for about 6 months with a wrist injury, and I was just taking, you know, paracetamol, painkillers, just managing my symptoms, but they just kept coming back. I started having to wear my hand in a splint. And this is just getting triggered by things as simple as just swimming. So I'm just swimming freestyle, I'm swimming long practices. It doesn't seem like a very high impact sport, but it was aggravating my wrist again and again and again. So much so that it was getting just kind of chronically inflamed to the point where I started having trouble sleeping.
And what you've been thinking at this moment?
Fuck. Sorry, had to swear. That's what I was thinking. I just couldn't imagine anything else like that was worse than this monumental thing happening to me at this time. Like, why me? Like, why is this happening? This is it. This is the most important year of training of my life. Things that a not very well-rounded person thinks. Somebody that is a little bit too addicted to one thing, for me being swimming. So I was just devastated, but I was in denial. So I kept training. So this is 6 months out of that injury and now 6 months out of Olympic trials. So I took, 1 or 2 weeks off at the end of the summer, got back to training, kept training, started training again, and things started getting worse. And it started really affecting my sleep to the point where I wasn't really sleeping. I had my hand in a splint, and I was taking pills to help, and I got to a point where I just realized it's not going to happen. Like I realized that I was causing such damage to my wrist that I was going to have serious consequences later in my life if I didn't stop and just try to let things heal. So that's when I made the difficult decision at the time to hang up my goggles and just call it a day. So
do you remember how you felt at this particular moment? Was it like the decision?
I think it was a long moment. It happened over weeks. I think I started cutting down at first, and then I was like, I'll just come back in a month. And then I came back, and I was like, it still hurts. Then I came back like another month later, and I was like, I think the wheels were turning in my brain, and I was like, I'm losing out on vital training to prepare myself for Olympic trials right now, so it's probably not going to happen. But I still wanted to go there because that was my identity, and that was my ego just getting in the way, going, I'm still going, like I still have a shot. Like even with less training, I could hop in and maybe make a final or something like that, because that's who I am. I can't not go to Olympic trials. I can't not be the swimmer anymore, which is like this label that you just use to describe your entire self-worth. And it happens a lot in the sport of swimming. And I think probably quite a few other sports. But swimming a little bit more than usual, because you spend so much of your life on the pool deck. Like I said, 20 plus hours a week training. The people that you see every day are like your family. So I was very much a lost puppy.
Oh.
So anyway, yeah, it's kind of funny to relive this and talk about it, because it really was such a blessing in disguise, and I was able to call it a day on something that had been such a defining part of my upbringing and development as a young adult, if we can say that, to that point. And really, like it was such a blessing in disguise, because it gave me the opportunity to take a step back and just kind of decide where my worth was outside of the pool, and set me on a completely different trajectory.
And so you start coaching. You start coaching swimming straight in, and
yeah. I always coached for a few years. Sorry, again, I kind of cut you off there.
No.
So yeah, I coached right away. Couple weeks of rest, and I just started coaching and helping out with the university team that I was training for. I was a graduate at that point, so I'd finished up my career. So I started coaching college kids in the States.
This must be hard, like for you who cannot swim anymore, and then to coach others, or you do.
Yeah, a little bit, but I think it was like a very humbling thing that the injury happened in the way that it did, because I just realized this really sucked, and I didn't want it to happen to other people. So I immediately kind of pivoted to coaching to help other people reach the levels that I was trying to reach, or higher, and just help them do it in a sustainable, long-term way, and help them see the big picture. Because, people can tell you what to do or coach you anytime, but if they've truly put themselves in your position, or if they've truly been in a place that you can relate to, it makes their message that much more meaningful. And I found that I really could identify people like me that had huge blind spots, and I could have those conversations with them, and I could help them with their technique and work on those little details that matter so much over the long term and for performance, to help them avoid that same trap that I fell down.
And how successful have you been at this?
Pretty good. I think I was definitely quite a good swim coach. I still dabble, and I hope that you would agree when we go to the commie and do our workouts. But yeah, I mean, my strength is in technique and becoming. I'm more of a swim technician So I help people with technique issues and helping them kind of become more efficient in their stroke, more pain-free, and just develop sustainable habits that make them faster long-term that maybe aren't like the glorious kind of Rocky style workouts that are simple to write and that a lot of coaches write. So my strength was definitely in balancing that kind of old school training with new school smart kind of thought process. So I immediately started learning from some of the best coaches in the world because a lot of them are in the States and they're really easy to kind of be in touch with. I was lucky enough to go to some I went to like a world clinic for some coaches in New Orleans one year and just got to make some amazing connections and started working with like these amazing coaches that I was just emulating and working on just different approaches of helping my swimmers get faster.
So
and,
what you've been doing with your swimmers is different than how you've been coached before?
A lot more technique, a lot more skills. So like swimming is not a very glamorous sport. It's, you think of it and you think of these like goofy guys with like Speedos on and girls that are just like all kind of like cultish and like hang out together and they're just kind of weird. So, it doesn't help that our practices can be really boring sometimes. So they're just swimming and looking at the bottom of the pool all day and not really thinking about the details, and they're not stimulated constantly. And I think that's really, really important. So my strength was in helping people by breaking down skills and working on them in practice. So we would do a lot more kind of short burst, really focused, intense sessions on things like diving or breakouts, which is when you like break out of the water and carry your speed. And just breaking down everything to like the smallest little detail so that people could get faster skill-wise and get that kind of practice and repetition so that when they actually went to race, they didn't check back into their kind of rocky self and just plod along, because the sport has evolved and the best people in the world now are working on, are working on just refining details. It's not about the rocky. The rocky people, they don't make the Olympics anymore and they don't place. There's a few of them left in the distance events, and you can understand why. It would take a lot of, it would be good and advantageous to have a lot of grit for long distance events. But for faster stuff, and even that longer stuff, the gap is closing. Smart training is taking huge strides forward, and the old school is falling by the wayside bit by bit.
Okay, so we learn how you help others swim better.
Yeah.
How was you? Because you've been still broken, isn't it? You still had the injuries. You kind of masked them by doing something else, but you've been still struggling with things.
Yeah, I wasn't in a good place. So I was helping other people. So I was finding satisfaction and helping other people. Pardon me. Sorry.
Want some water?
I think I'm okay. Yeah, all good now. So yeah, I was helping all these other people and feeling good about myself for doing that. But yeah, my body was still very much broken. So I had tons and tons of kind of leftover injuries from an athletic career, bad shoulders, wasn't doing much overhead kind of pressing movements in the gym or anything like that. My wrists were both quite problematic. My knees were locking unexpectedly when I was walking around, and my whole body was just kind of a mess. And yeah, so I was helping all these other people, but I wasn't really in a great place myself.
So Alex is still broken, and he tried many, many different things. Nothing worked. So he decides to go back to Canada and start master's degree in physiology to learn more about human body, and maybe he will find a way to fix him himself. And then he stumbled across something fascinating, something which changes his life completely.
About a year into my time in Victoria, I discovered this thing called functional range conditioning and mobility. And I was like, oh my God, I've been waiting so long to see something like this, because it looks like yoga. They look like they're doing stretchy stuff. They look like they're doing some strength building stuff. And it actually looks like it has a rhyme or reason, and it has some science behind it. And I see a bunch of smart people taking it, like taking these courses, and it's like, this is my ticket. I can finally maybe empower myself with the knowledge to fix myself, and maybe have something more to offer as a PT or a trainer or something as well. So yeah, I was just one day kind of scrolling around Instagram or Facebook or something, and I saw this picture, and I took it to my physiotherapist or athletic trainer at the time, and she was like, "Oh, I've done that." So I was like, "Can you teach me?" And she took me through a class, and I was like absolutely hooked right from the get-go. Started doing some mobility training for the first time, and that's when I realized, oh, I can do this. So I just signed up for the next course that I could. So
what did you've been teaching this for a few years now?
Yep, a couple years.
How would you if you needed to describe it to me in like a couple of sentences? What's that, and how this helps you, and how the functional range conditioning is different from, I don't know, regular strength conditioning? You said, sorry, you already said it's like a yoga style, but not yoga. So,
it's not yoga at all.
Explain, please.
Please, yeah, no worries. Happy to. So it's strength training for your joints, and it's strength training for your end ranges. So end ranges are, we all know how to exercise well within our range of motion by doing a squat, a lunge, deadlifts, push-pull, all that kind of stuff. But what we do in FRC is we develop your end range strength. So usually we have all sorts of blind spots all over our body, where we're tight and weak, and you can tell right away when you go and see your physiotherapist or your massage therapist, like where, like I just don't feel very strong in that place. I feel a little bit pinchy or just plain out weak. And what FRC does is it provides you a system to work within that helps you develop strength and resiliency in your joints at their end ranges. And it gives you a system to work within with regular strength training as well. So you end up doing positions that just look like positions that you would go in to stretch in, and you work on them actively by building strength. And it's quite taxing. It's not easy. You can get like a full workout doing it. So in that way, it's very specific and completely unlike yoga and unlike passive movements like flexibility, like when you're just stretching your leg and you just feel that burn, but you're not really giving any output. Mm-hmm. So yeah, mobility is completely different. It's completely active. You're kind of like self-imposed tension and strength to build sustainable strength and adaptation to your body. So a bit of a convoluted answer. I'll distill it down into saying it's strength training for your joints.
There we go.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
So,
and now, how do you feel? Like describe, if you can look at yourself when you've been like before this Olympic trials, and had this system like year before. Yeah. Would that help you a lot?
Oh my God. I mean, it helps you identify every part of your body that is weak or problematic. So first off, I would have had all the information I needed, but I wouldn't have known how to use it. But with FRC, I would know this is what I need to do step by step to piece myself back together. And I don't think it would have taken a year. These things take time. It's not a magic bullet. It's not a magic pill. It's something that gives you, it's a system that gives you the knowledge and the know-how to rebuild yourself. But the best part of it is that none of it is snake oil. It's just hard work, dedication, and consistency. Everybody's least favorite words to hear. Give me that magic pill. Give me that trigger point release. Use the roller, the lacrosse ball, all that kind of stuff. All those things have a time and a place, but are they going to change the way your body adapts to exercise, like strength training? No, right? It's gonna make you feel better temporarily, and it's great, but only building strength is going to get you better. So yeah, I don't think a year out of my Olympic journey would have been long enough.
5 years.
5 years, definitely. And the amazing thing is it makes you perform better too, because what the system does is it breaks you down into just bite-sized chunks. So you're just focusing on your knee, you're focusing on your hip, you're focusing on your shoulder, and by breaking down your body into pieces and seeing how well each piece works as a system, when you piece your body back together, you're so much more aware of how you move, how you feel, where your strength is, that you become like it's like a cheat. It's like you're on steroids or something. Like, you're so much more coordinated, you move better, you feel better, and it's awesome. And that's how I feel now. Like, I know that if I'm sore, it's my decision or lack thereof to work that sore part of my body. And I'm human. I still have blind spots from time to time where I don't put in enough work that I should. But at least I'm completely aware of what that work is that I'm kind of skipping out on. So yeah, I mean, like, right now I feel much better than I did even in my teens, and I'm 32 soon. And I just feel great. And everybody that I introduce it to finds the same thing. It's just you working on your joints, you feel better, you feel more connected to your body, and you feel less, you feel more pain-free. It's not the solution to everything, but it's a framework to work within, to make your body just feel great and feel strong.
That's awesome. Right. Let's just focus a little bit on you and your business, because I know you set up your practice here in Edinburgh.
Yeah.
And where do you see this going?
So I moved here. Sorry.
Have you thought about this? Like, have you thought like seeing yourself in 2-3 years? What's gonna be? I know you're gonna work in Fitness Soul a lot.
Maybe. Yeah.
Maybe.
No, definitely.
No, okay.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I love it there. Yeah. No, I moved here a year ago, so it's been a jam-packed year. So I was lucky enough to get picked up with a great personal training outfit here in Stockbridge at Luke Bremner Fitness, and that got my feet back on the ground after immigrating from Canada. And yeah, since then I'm just working on developing my business and my brand, which is Mobility Edinburgh, and I'm hoping, because there are so few people doing what I do in Edinburgh, that it's going to grow. And I'm pretty confident that it is. Once people get a taste for mobility training, they really realize the benefits from it. And in 2 years, I hope to be doing some more sport-specific stuff, some stuff that's not sports-specific for people who need it, like people who want to be active, who are in a place where maybe I was, like 7 years ago, or worse, like desk jobs and stuff like that really do take a toll on the body. And I think that what I try to spread is a message of hope that you can really fix yourself, you can really work on this stuff and be empowered with the information to do so. So in a couple of years, I hope to be doing more classes on work related stuff. So when you're dealing with occupational weakness and tightness in the body, and then also working with some sports teams. I don't know, I wouldn't be opposed to working with a pro sports team in the near future. Me. Yeah, we got a pro athlete right here.
Anyway, how people can get in touch with you? What's the best way?
Just check me out on Instagram. That's probably the easiest place, at Mobility Edinburgh. And send me an email, alexmclarenpt@gmail.com, and just go to Fitness Soul, Fitness Soul's website, and check out our classes. That's the best place to get your feet wet with this mobility stuff. Try a class, see if you like it. I work one-on-one with people, and I do group classes as well. So
Awesome. I'm gonna put all the links below somewhere so people can find it.
Love it.
And I think that's us. Well done.
Nice.
Good job.
All right, that's us. Thank you very much for listening. If you enjoy my chat with Alex, please like the podcast and share it with your friends. I see you soon. Bye.